Hi everybody, my name is Emily Stolarcyk. I am coming here from Cordova, Alaska to talk to you about what the Navy has planned for their training activities kind of in our front yard. It's about 20 miles from my community. And I really appreciate that I'm talking to an extremely knowledgeable crowd on this. So this is, hopefully some of what I'm saying makes a lot of sense. I think it will for everybody. Anyway, I'm the program manager for a nonprofit called the Eyak Preservation Council. I have been working on this for 6 months. First found out about the Navy coming to town when literally they came to town September 12th of 2014, and they had a public meeting. They were, as part of their NEPA process, they were required to do these public meetings, and of course they had all this flashy material, and I'm very sad to say that of my community of about 2,000 people, there were only 4 people in attendance of this public meeting. Myself and my partner, who's a commercial fisherman, were half of the attendance. And this was for a public comment period that was going on for trainings for the next 5 years. So kind of since then, I have taken this and ran with it. So I'm going to do my best to keep it short. I'll talk really fast.
But Alaska's big, so you get a little...
Okay, great. All of the information in my slideshow, all of the numbers, everything from that is from the Navy's EIS, so I know you'll all understand that. And when it talks about, when in Alaska, where we have a very heavy, very involved military presence, and it's been like that for a long time, not that long, but in recent history, that the Navy has done periodic trainings before, and that's what they're kind of falling back on, is that just the hope people will say, oh, they've done this before, it's no big deal. And that's exactly what people are saying. However, what they're talking about doing is brand new, has never been done before. And where I'm coming from, some of you may know, this is where the Exxon Valdez oil spill happened 26 years ago. So this area has not recovered from the oil spill, certain parts of this area. So, and I'm also very honored to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you, Carol. Okay, you can, go back 1 second. Sorry, go back. Okay, so what this is basically trainings to maintain military readiness. Okay, now you can go. All right, so their proposed alternative was not changed from their two things. The training that they're doing in 2015, where they start dropping the bombs in June, this was permitted in 2011, but it's never happened before. Also, right now, they're having a supplemental EIS going on, so that has to do only with marine mammals, and it's for 2016 to 2021. So it's kind of 2 separate things going on, but they haven't changed anything. They haven't changed their ask. So what they were permitted in 2011 was this right here. It's their preferred alternative. The no action was everything that would happen before 2011. So it's all the old stuff. So now they're going to do this a lot more. And so they can actually train for up to 42 days per summer, April to October. That's during fishing season. They can do 2 separate 21-day trainings. And so they get basically all of this doubled. They get to do an additional carrier strike group, and so a SYNC-X exercise where they blow up a big ship, bomb, missiles, all that stuff, sonar. And so the big difference between what's ever been done before and what's going to happen in 2015 is the use of sonar, active and passive sonar. We've never had that happen on this large of scale in the area I'm talking about. Okay, next one, please. Okay, so this is the training area, and after I'm done, maybe at some point, I have maps, I have some materials if anybody wants it. So this is their training area. This is an extremely large area. This is the community that I live in. This is Cordova. This is home of the Copper River and Copper River salmon, some of the salmon that you guys all had this morning. All of these areas are commercial fishing. This is the commercial fishing is the largest private sector employer of the state of Alaska. Gives about 80,000 people jobs. This water here in the Gulf of Alaska is the most nutrient-rich and oldest water in the world. And that's where they want to do this. So The training area is 20 to 24 nautical miles from most coastline. It's 12 miles from the nearest point of land, which is right here, which is Middleton Island. The black and white dash that you see, that's that 12-mile limit. That 12-mile limit's really important because EPA's laws only extend 12 miles from land about ocean dumping. So they go basically as close as they can, and then they begin their trainings. So this area is huge, 300 by 150 nautical miles, and it's over 42,000 nautical miles squared, surface and subsurface of water. So it's a huge area. The places where they'll be training is classified. I've talked to just about everybody I could possibly talk to, and it's classified. We will never know where they will be. So if we want to drive boats and do a protest out there, we won't know. Okay, next slide, please.
That's okay. Yeah.
Are we good?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. So this is a map that shows, this is the same map that I just showed you, but this shows our protected marine environment. So the whole light blue, all the light blue that you see is actually supposedly protected by NOAA. The permits to be able to do these trainings the Navy has, they're actually given by NOAA and NMFS, the National Marine Fisheries Service. So there's that. So the green areas are all state protected marine areas, so they're going to be bombing in there.
Then I guess show them.
We have these seamounts that they're called habitat areas of Pacific concern. So they're extremely, extremely important habitats for many, many marine creatures. So I just wanted you to show that. Next slide, please. So the TMMA, or TMAA, the Temporary Maritime Activities Area, that's the name of that map. It falls within the Alaska Current System, and I'm not going to delve into this so much, except for, like Carol was saying, they're talking about this one area. Well, you're taking like a square and putting it over water. There's a current system. There are weather systems. This is not just going to stay where it's at. It's going to go everywhere. And the way that it spins in the Gulf of Alaska, all of this stuff that they leave in the water is going to come right to where I live and right to where all of our commercial fisheries are, and subsistence fisheries. And so the currents are also really important for the transportation of eggs and larvae and fish and basically entire food web. And so it matters. And so when the Navy says, well, these trainings aren't going to be a big deal because all of our expended materials are dispersed over a large area, it doesn't really comfort me much. And so in this area, which some people would just consider it's dead ocean, there's actually 383 species that have their predominant ecosystems in this area. Next slide, please. The why of the where, you don't really have to read all that. So one of the first things that people want to know is, why is it so close to land? Why can't they take it 200 miles out to sea? The short answer is that if it's close to land, it's cheaper and it's easier to get their planes back and forth to the bases in Anchorage and around Anchorage. So these trainings are actually, I'm just focused on the Navy part. They're actually combined trainings, which constitute the largest training area in the Pacific. So there will be Army, Air Force, Coast Guard, state agencies, federal agencies, other countries coming to take part in these war games.
Excuse me, just checking things. Let's go back. You need the next
They also want to train, not quite yet. They also want to train in this. This is the continental shelf, so there's a lot of variances in the depth of the water. They say that they need to train there because they need the different depths for their submarines and things like that. So while it is incredibly important to nature and humans, it's really important for the Navy to be able to go use sonar there. Next slide, please. Government-to-government consultation. So the way that our tribal system works in Alaska is vastly different than anywhere else. But basically, all of our federally recognized tribal villages were offered consultations when this was going on. They started contacting them in 2008. Every single regional tribe signed off on their right to consultation because not a single one of them understood what they were signing. 9 of them didn't even respond. And the Navy just said, don't worry, we're doing some trainings, no big deal. And so we're talking about people that have rights to their subsistence harvest, people that have been fishing or practicing their lifestyle for thousands of years. Every single one of them signed off. Eyak is the native village that in the town where I live, where the guy wrote a really great letter saying that he wasn't really sure if this was a good idea, but oh, by the way, if the Navy could please keep him updated on if there was any opportunities for employment, that'd be great. These native tribes and these native corporations, they do a lot of very scary military contracting. So it's incredibly complex, and a lot of people say, like, oh, the tribes have rights and the tribes have sovereignty. They don't. And the people that are running those tribes are often very corrupt. And so it's very difficult. But I will say tribal consultations, government-to-government consultations in other places, like on the West Coast, they're winning. And this is a very successful delay tactic that other people are using to hold off Navy trainings. Next. Oh, and regulatory agency. Okay, so we're not going to get any help from any of these at all. None. It's out of their water, their jurisdiction extends 3 miles from shore, so there's not going to be any agency that can help us at all. So that's another thing. And our Coastal Zone Management Act actually expired a couple years ago, and the state of Alaska has not redone it. So it's just, we don't have one anymore. Next slide, please. So one of the things, aside from the noise and aside from the sonar, one of the things that we're really concerned about is the expended materials. All of the garbage that's left over after the bombs and the missiles and the torpedoes are gone. So this is everything that they use. It's all live, it's all real, it's the same stuff we use in war. So the heavy metals, this is all what it's from, this is all what it is. And they know that our fish are going to be exposed to this. It says it right in their EIS, that there's a high risk for chemical exposure to fish. Do you eat wild salmon or wild fish from Alaska? It just happens to provide most of the sockeye salmon in the country, 99%. And then there's also this big problem of propellants. And this solid grain propellant, this is coming out of all that stuff and it goes right into the water, and it'll be dispersed over a large area. The Navy will actually say, well, it's no big deal because it's dispersed over a large area. Or a lot of it'll burn off as soon as it hits as soon as it goes in the atmosphere, a lot of it'll burn off or it'll evaporate. But we actually know when you look at jet fuel and things like that, that's not the case. So also not very comforting. And then these things like benzene, toluene, the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, they all cause cancer. We have a lot of people now that are getting sick that actually went out and tried to clean up the oil in the Exxon Valdez oil spill, and they're sick now. They have COPD, they have tumors on their kidneys because they were exposed to all of this. And now we're saying, let's take the cleanest water in the world and put this in it annually and not clean it up. Next, please. Here's a laundry list of everything that will be in the water from these expended materials. And this is what the Navy says will happen. They'll either burn or they'll sink or they'll be dispersed in the current system. But it's no big deal because they'll sink. They also say that they can be mistaken for prey by a multitude of species, including salmon. And just from doing this one time, that's going to happen in June, 20% of that map I showed you could be polluted, or 8,400 nautical miles squared. So it's quite a large area. They weren't kidding when they said a large area. Next, please. This is just kind of a chart. This is right out of their EIS that shows the number of the weapons that they'll use. So this is alternative 2. This is the no action alternative. This is an increase underneath alternative 2. So that no action alternative, that's all pre-2011. So yes, they have done these periodic trainings before. So we're talking about up to 360 bombs and so on. And this is the amount of pounds, 352,000 pounds a year in the water. And of that, the stuff that's hazardous, the lead, cadmium, and everything like that, over 10,000 pounds of hazardous materials. And now this is up to. They may not drop 360 bombs, but they're allowed to. But they're not going to tell us how many they do. This huge increase right here, 6,500%, this is the use of sonobuoys, and that's associated with sonar that have never been used before. So when I tell people, yes, they've done trainings, no, they've never done this, here it is in black and white, how much this is an increase. Next, please. Just a little word about cyanide. The EPA says cyanide is not normally present in seawater, so they've said a safe amount is 1 part per billion. Well, when these Mk-48 torpedoes are discharged and left into the water, the cyanide that comes off of them will be 140 to 150 parts per billion. So 140 to 150 times what the EPA is safe. It says it's safe. You can go next. All right, so most of what I talk about is fish, because that's the community I'm from, that's our way of life, the one I've adopted because I'm not from there. But we eat and breathe and live and die by the salmon. It is our way of life. It is our culture, it is our tradition, it is our source of economic income, it is everything. But that's just tiny, those sort of fishing communities. A lot of people are concerned about how this affects marine life or marine mammals. And a lot of the court cases that are heard their successes are because of the Marine Mammal Protection Act. Salmon and our healthy runs have zero protection because we don't protect species of fish runs until they're endangered. So when you have something that's perfect and sustainable, they don't protect it at all. There's absolutely no protections in place for that. But the marine mammals, they know that they have some protection for. So this is kind of just a list of everything that has essential habitat in that area. So takes, level B and level A takes. Level A takes are outright death, like we blow them up, they die right away. Level B takes are where they can actually disrupt the Navy and the use of sonar and their exercises can disrupt an essential life behavior. Surfacing, nursing, migrating, breeding, feeding. So things that don't outright kill them, but they die at some point. So over a 5-year period, it'll be 182,000 marine mammal takes in this area, at least. And this is just what the Navy tells us. So I'm going to warn you, the next couple of slides are pretty graphic, but I did think that they were important to show. So you can just go, they're 3, so just kind of go through them before you switch to it though. This happened 1 year ago. This was April of 2014. These pictures I'm going to show you. This was from a combined training off the island of Crete in the Mediterranean last year. So it's not like these are old pictures. No, this is less than a year ago. So next slide, please. That's a fetus of a whale that was killed because of sonar. And you can go to the next one. They had 14 of these whales wash up on this little beach last year, and this was all caused by the Navy sonar. Next one. And that's what happens, it blows up their ears. And it's important to note that whatever happens to whales will happen to fish, it will happen to humans. A lot of times, sometimes fishermen in our area, you can go to the next one so you guys don't have to look at that. Fishermen in our area, sometimes they actually compete with the whales because you can do things like have a whale go through your fishing net, and that's bad because that's cost you thousands of dollars. And you have maybe 12 hours to fish to make your money. So it's sometimes the whale part doesn't really pull on the heartstrings of the fisherman like I need it to, but I know it does that in other people. So that's why I show those. So I'm sorry, but that's the reality of the situation. That's what it looks like.
And Emily just said it's been about 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to go. Wow, we're like 20 minutes. All right.
I think people probably want you to keep going.
Okay, so the environmental effects of these trainings on fish. They have an idea of what they will do, and basically this just says that warfare is stressful to fish populations. That's basically what all of that says. So the exposure to chemical byproducts, the disturbance, the industry, the injury from the death and the pressure of the shock waves, it's all bad. You can go to the next one. So in reference to sonar, pretty much this all says that no studies have been done. Not a single study has been done, ever, that will talk about sonar and fish and where I live. And they don't have these studies because if they did have these studies, they would show that it would be bad. So if they had these studies, I could walk into a court and I could say, look, I'm proving the likelihood of harm here, but I don't have them. So I can't prove the likelihood of harm. So it's, no small stroke of genius on the Navy's part that they don't have any studies on this. They have studies that will show what it'll do to whales and marine mammals, but not a single one on fish. Next, please. You can go next. Okay, when we're talking about EFH is essential fish habitat. So this is an area that's essential fish habitat. It's really important. They need it or they will die. So these are all some of the species and the different lives. This is out of their EIS. This is the different stages of life that have essential fish habitat in this area that's to be bombed. So some of that you guys have probably had, rockfish, cod, sole, really important. You can go to the next one. This one is extremely important. So this is salmon. All 5 species of Pacific salmon have essential fish habitat in this area that's going to be bombed. We have the maturing juveniles and everything, so they think that possibly these trainings could stop them from maturing. Okay, so we have the fish that are growing up, they're getting all that nice fat and all that flavor that's so delicious. Well, now they're going to be doing that, but swimming around in water that's got lead and cyanide and everything in it. And we're also having a huge problem with, if anybody knows, with the Chinook, the king salmon. The numbers are plummeting statewide. And it's a huge, huge problem I could talk a long time about, but there's no protections in place. So I'm just about done here. Next. All right, almost done. So when the Navy did this EIS last time, the NMFS, the National Marine Fisheries Service, actually found that they disagreed because the Navy, no surprise, said, we don't see any significant negative impacts. This is not going to be a problem. You're fine. Okay. Well, NMFS actually disagreed, and they made 4 conservation recommendations. Basically, move it, develop a long-term monitoring plan, stop displacing the research vessels, and count the number of fish that you kill. The Navy said, no, no, sure, no. And when I talk to NMFS, NMFS just does this. It happens. We're a cooperating agency. That's all they say. So, yeah, it sucks. Next, please. When I sue, this will be what I use, the Magnuson-Stevens Fisheries Conservation and Management Act. Next. All right, so this is not a complete list. I'm learning more all the time, but there are people in other places that are speaking up about this, and they're trying to stop it from happening. So I've been talking to the Consultation Council of Hawaii, both Earth Justice and NRDC. And so this is really huge. A federal judge, and this is having to do with marine mammals, but it's the same thing. A federal judge just handed down, and I think the press releases were from like April 7th, that NMFS actually violated federal laws in place when they granted the permits for these marine mammal takes for these exact same trainings that happened between Southern California and Hawaii. So right now NRDC and Earth Justice, they're going, I don't know what's the best way to deal with this. We didn't think we would win, but they won. They won across the board. And so then VA case in Puerto Rico, I think a lot of people here probably know about that. And then the Winters case. So the Winters case is really interesting because the Navy won, but it set a precedent of public interest. And that's what I'm doing. I'm here representing the public interest. This is really interesting. Gulf of Alaska in 2012. So when I mentioned that these trainings hadn't happened before, they hadn't happened because of the settlement agreement. NRDC and a group called Center for Biological Diversity got together and they threatened to sue the Navy. And what happened was they signed a settlement agreement that said that the Navy had to spend a lot more money to research how these trainings were going to affect marine mammals. And they did. And it held off the trainings in 2012 and 2013. They didn't happen in 2014 because of the sequestration. They didn't have the money. So there's this huge push to do this right now in 2015 to open the door to be able to do this in the Gulf of Alaska for the next 20 years. And so this is what I'm saying. And then the Sinkion. And of course, this case was not public. No one in Alaska even knows about this. No one in Alaska even knows I'm here right now. Very few people. So next. Okay, so what am I doing? And this took me a while to figure out. While I've been working on this for a while, I didn't really understand or could even really get what I should do. So here I can give this information to you. I can make you really upset and really sad, bum you out real hard. But what can I do to fix it? So we can litigate. Unfortunately, I just learned that it's not an option for 2015. We don't have time. I will never have an assessment done. I can't get an injunction. A judge won't hear it. Alaska's a hard state for this kind of stuff. So basically, I have to resort to activism. And so what that means is that these public letters, And so I know that talking to our politicians may not work. I'm hoping it works. So just the day before yesterday, before I got on a plane to come here, I finally got form letters up on my website, and I have copies, that you can actually go on, anyone can, and send a letter. You can customize it, and it goes directly to the governor and the lieutenant governor and both of the senators for Alaska. There's another letter that actually goes right to, and this took some finagling, the Chief of Naval Command. I jumped through some hoops and I was able to get his personal email. So it goes to him and the commander of the Pacific Fleet. And basically what I'm trying to say is please don't use live ordnance or sonar in the Gulf of Alaska. Many people have told me I will fail. I'm not going to be successful, but I can't stop anyway, because if I do nothing, the bombs drop in June. And if I do everything, maybe they still drop. But at least I can put it on some radars. Maybe they drop this June, but they don't drop for the next 20 years. I don't know. It's all new. It's all brand new. All right, and so I'm going also to the media. So I'm kind of launching, and I say me because kind of right now it is me. I don't want it to be me. I'm here hoping that other people will help me. But Alaska is a tough state for this to sell in. Really tough. All right, and then what we're going to be doing is a sustained public outreach campaign. So it hasn't been done before. However, in Alaska, we do have quite a bit of angles that we can work. We have, the organization I work for, we have a pretty strong history of direct nonviolent action. We've stopped some things all before my time. We have the Exxon Valdez oil spill, that these areas that these Gulf of Alaska, waters feed into are not recovered from the Gulf of Alaska oil spill. There we have the Copper River salmon brand and king salmon habitat. Okay, you can go to the next one. To send a letter, go here. I also have a sign-in sheet. And I have this for people. And last one. All right, I know we don't have time for questions anyway, but that's my email address. If you want to read the EIS, the Navy's EIS, it's goaeis.com. It's all on there. Be prepared to dig. You can stay involved by liking us on Facebook and joining our mailing list, and I feel like this is really important because most people ask me, do you really think that you can stop it? And I say, yeah, I do. So thank you, everybody.